Like and subscribe if you want to see more stories from the block. Rain was already coming down when the sirens hit the block. Blue and red lights bounced off every puddle in the street, washing the cracked asphalt in chaos. I was under the hood of an old '84 Monte Carlo, hands deep in grease, when the first cruiser tore past the shop. Two more followed. Then I heard the helicopter chopping the sky like a heartbeat gone wrong. Something told me it wasn't just another sweep. Not tonight. I stepped out into the doorway of my garage, wiping my hands with a rag that used to be white. The air smelled of oil and wet concrete, sharp with exhaust. A few blocks down, I saw them. Half a dozen cops pushing some poor bastard up against a patrol car, yelling, radios screaming. Then I saw who it was. Ghost. Tyree Ghost McCall, the king of the Blue Smoke Kings. Once my brother, now a ghost for real, because if they took him tonight, he wasn't coming back. My stomach turned cold. He was face down on the hood, rain dripping off his shaved head, blue hoodie dark with blood. Two cops were on him, knees in his back. Another was shouting into the radio, calling for more units. Across the street, some kids were filming from a porch, their voices shaking with fear and excitement. Yo, that's Ghost. They got Ghost. The word spread faster than the sirens. I could feel the block come alive, the shutters closing, doors locking, whispers running through the wet air like static. Every man who ever threw a flag on this street knew what this meant. If Ghost fell, blue smoke fell with him, and that would bring fire. My first thought was simple: stay out of it. I had nothing to do with that life anymore. But then I saw Ghost lift his head just enough to catch my eye. Even from 50 yards away, I saw it, recognition. Desperation. A plea. Zay. His mouth barely moved, but I read it clear as day through the storm. And that was it. My body moved before my brain did. I threw down the rag, grabbed a wrench from the workbench, and stepped into the rain. The street glistened under the helicopter light, every drop falling slow and silver. My boots hit the water hard, splashing through it as the world narrowed down to one thing. Ghost on the ground, about to disappear forever. The cops didn't see me coming. Their focus was on the squad car, on making their bust. I ducked behind a parked van, watching their movements. One of them, stocky white dude with a mustache, had his hand on Ghost's neck, pressing him down hard. Another was opening the back door of the cruiser. That's when I saw the gun. Ghost's gun, half buried in a puddle a few feet away. If they found that, it was over. I took a breath, heart pounding against my ribs like a hammer, and made a decision that would change everything. I reached in my pocket and grabbed the spark plug I'd been using earlier. One throw. That's all it took. The plug cracked through the windshield of the patrol car like a gunshot. Both cops flinched, heads snapping up. I was already moving, rushed out from the van, grabbed Ghost's arm, and yanked him off the hood before they could even draw their weapons. "Move, Ghost! Move!" I shouted, voice lost in the storm. He stumbled, half dazed, blood streaked across his cheek. But instinct kicked in. He ran. We bolted down the alley behind the shop, slipping on wet asphalt, sirens howling louder behind us. A flashbang went off near the street, white light cutting through the rain. "Stop! Police!" someone shouted. Bullets cracked against the walls, warning shots, maybe not. The air smelled like gunpowder and rain and fear. We dove behind a dumpster, breathless, soaking wet. Ghost's chest was heaving, his eyes wide and wild. "Say, the hell you doing, man?" he wheezed. "I could ask you the same thing." I shot back. "They were about to end you." He coughed, spitting blood into the puddle beside him. "You shouldn't have come out, bro. They saw you." "They didn't see shit," I lied. Somewhere in the distance, the helicopter's lights swept over the rooftops, searching. Dog barked, engines revved. The whole neighborhood was awake now. Ghost tried to stand, but his leg gave out. "I'm hit," he muttered. I looked down. His jeans were torn, dark red, spreading from the thigh. Not deep, but bad enough to slow him down. I slipped my arm under his shoulder and dragged him deeper into the alley, through the back gate into my shop's yard. The metal door creaked as we slipped inside. I bolted it shut, flipped off the light, and the world went quiet except for our ragged breathing. The only light came from the flickering fluorescent above the workbench. Ghost leaned against the wall, blood running down to his boot. His eyes were locked on me, unreadable. "Why'd you do it, Zay?" he asked finally, voice low. "You out. You clean. Ain't nobody seen you in 2 years." I grabbed a towel, pressed it to his leg. "Guess I ain't as out as I thought." He smirked through the pain, that same crooked grin I used to see back in the day when we'd run from the Reds, ducking between cars and laughing like fools. "Still got that mechanic's touch, huh?" I didn't answer. I just worked, cleaning the wound, hands shaking. My mind was racing. Cameras, witnesses, cops. If they connected me to this, it was over. "You carrying?" I asked. He shook his head. "Dropped it when they tackled me." I hesitated. "Then we're good. For now." But I knew better. They'd find a gun. They'd find a broken windshield. They'd find me. Ghost watched me in silence, then said softly, "You didn't see the badge on one of them, did you?" "What?" He leaned forward, eyes burning. "One of those cops? He wasn't LAPD. What are you talking about?" "Internal affairs. They were looking for me for something else." "Somebody talking." I froze. "You saying you got a rat in blue smoke?" Ghost didn't blink. "That's exactly what I'm saying." The words hung heavy between us. A rat. Inside the Kings. That explained the raid. The precision. The way they came straight for him. Not the corners, not the stash houses him. Ghost winced as I tightened the bandage. "Whole set's compromised, bro. I've been feeling it for weeks. And you think I can fix that?" I asked, almost laughing. "I fix cars, Ghost. Not people." He looked at me then, really looked at me. "Nah, Zay. You fix what's broken. Always have." That line hit deeper than I wanted it to. For a second, I saw my little brother's face. Dion, 15 years old, blue rag on his wrist, laying in a pool of his own blood outside that same shop years ago. I told myself I'd never touch the streets again after that. But here I was, drenched in rain, hiding a wounded gang leader, the past clawing its way back through the cracks. Outside, the sirens were fading, moving east. The radio scanner on my bench buzzed with static and clipped voices. Suspects on foot, heading north, possibly wounded. I killed the radio and exhaled. "You can't stay here long. They'll sweep again at dawn." Ghost nodded, pushing himself up. "I just need an hour. Then I'll be out." He limped toward the back, looking around the garage like a ghost walking through memories. "Damn, you still got the old lift running." "Barely," I said. He grinned. "You still use, eh?" I didn't reply. My head was pounding. The smell of oil and metal filled the air, mixing with the copper scent of his blood. Every sound outside made me flinch. Then came a knock. 3 short raps on the side door, the one that faced the alley. Ghost and I froze. Another knock, harder this time. Then a voice. "Zay, you in there?" It was familiar. Terrence, one of the younger BSK heads. Eager, reckless, always wanting to prove himself. Ghost's eyes narrowed. "Don't open that." He probably saw us come in. I whispered. "Exactly." The knocking turned into pounding. "Zay, open up, man. We saw you grab Ghost." "You crazy, bro. They swarm in the block." I hesitated, then cracked the door open just enough to see him. He was soaked, hoodie clinging to him, eyes darting like a cornered cat. Behind him, 2 other BSK kids were keeping lookout, hands stuffed in pockets. "You trying to get us all locked up?" Terrence hissed. "They got choppers, dogs. Whole damn precinct out here." Ghost stepped into view behind me, and Terrence's expression shifted from fear to awe. "Ghost? Damn, they said you were done, bro." "Not yet," Ghost rasped. "You alone?" Terrence nodded, glancing back. "We good." They see her chin the main street. "Then get off it," Ghost said. "Lay low. No calls. No corners. Not till I say." Terrence swallowed hard. I. What now?" Ghost looked at me, then back at him. "Tell the rest we meet tomorrow night." "The smoke yard." Terrence hesitated. "But that's..." "Just do it," Ghost snapped. The kid nodded fast and disappeared into the rain. The door shut. Silence returned. I turned to Ghost. "The smoke yard? You insane? That's the first place they'll look." He limped back to the stool, eyes shadowed. "That's the point. Let him look." I stared at him, realizing what he meant. "You're biting the mole." "Exactly." I shook my head. "This is crazy." He smiled faintly. "Crazy's what keeps us alive." The rain hammered harder outside, thunder rolling across Compton like distant artillery. I went to the window, watched the reflection of the flashing lights fade down the boulevard. The neighborhood was quiet again, but it wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence that comes before something worse. When I turned back, Ghost was lighting a cigarette, his hands trembling just a little. He offered me one. I took it. For a moment, we stood there in the dim garage, smoke curling between us. The same kind of smoke that had followed us all our lives, blue, heavy, impossible to escape. Ghost said quietly, "You know, once this starts, it don't stop." I exhaled slowly, watching the smoke drift upward. "Yeah," I said. "I know." He nodded, like that was the answer he'd been expecting. The storm outside didn't let up. The world felt suspended, rain tapping on metal, the smell of gasoline thick in the air, the faint hum of electricity. Every sound carried weight, every second stretched thin. Then I heard it again, the faint buzz of the police scanner I hadn't turned off fully. A single line came through the static. Anonymous tip, suspect hiding near Rosewood Auto. Possible accomplice identified as Isaiah Turner. My name. Ghost's eyes met mine. The cigarette fell from his lips, ash scattering on the floor. We didn't say a word. We just listened to the rain, to the sirens returning, to the sound of fate catching up. And for the first time in years, I realized something I tried hard to forget. You can wash the grease off your hands, but you can't wash off the smoke. The night didn't end. It just changed color. By the time dawn scraped its gray fingers across Compton, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the air was still thick, wet asphalt, gun oil, and that cold tang of fear that never really left the block. I hadn't slept. Ghost hadn't either. He sat in the corner of the garage with his hoodie up, leg bandaged, cigarette glowing like a small warning light in the dark. Every couple minutes, a cruiser rolled by outside. They weren't searching anymore. They were watching, waiting for someone to move. My name was already on the scanner. That meant my face would follow soon. I poured coffee into a chipped mug, handed it to Ghost. He took it without a word. We sat in silence, the sound of the drip still hitting the concrete where the roof leaked. "You got a plan?" I asked finally. "Always," he said. "Just ain't sure if it's a good one yet." He sipped the coffee, grimaced. "Still make it too strong. Still smoke too much," I shot back. He laughed, a rough, tired sound. For a second, it felt like the old days, before everything burned. Then the moment passed. "Listen," he said, setting the mug down. "You heard that scanner last night. Somebody talked. Only a handful knew where I'd be. Means it's close." "How close?" He looked at me through the cigarette smoke. "Family close." I froze. "You saying one of the kings?" He nodded. "One of ours." The words sank deep. I'd grown up with those dudes. Bleed with them. Run from cops with them. Buried too many of them. The thought that one was feeding info to the law felt worse than any bullet. "Terrence?" I asked. He was too eager last night. Maybe. Or maybe he's just stupid. Either way, I'm not dying cause someone wanted a shorter sentence. He leaned forward, grimacing as his wound tugged. "That's why I called the meet. Tomorrow night, smoke yard. We find who's talking, or we end up next to Dion." My brother's name hit like a slap. I clenched my jaw, looking away. Ghost always knew where to press. "You ain't got the right to use his name, Ghost." "I got every right," he said calmly. "He was one of us. Died for a war he didn't start." I stood up fast, the chair scraping loud. "He died cause of you, remember that." Ghost stared at me, cold, steady. "You think I forgot?" Silence filled the room, heavy and bitter. Rain whispered on the metal roof. Finally, he said, "You saved my life last night, Zay. That's a debt, but debt's got a balance. If I go down, this whole block goes with me. You know that." I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him I didn't care, but I did. Damn it, I still cared about the block, about the people who bought their kids' bikes from the same man who used to fix their cars and hide their guns. You can't wash that out. Not with time, not with distance. Ghost stubbed his cigarette, pushed himself up. "You still got that old Buick in the back?" "Yeah." "What?" "Need a ride. Gotta move before they circle back." "Where you going?" "Handle something," he said. "Somebody tipped them off. I got a name." I stared at him. "Whose?" He hesitated. "Slim J." That name punched through the haze. Slim J was young, barely 21, always trying to talk like he'd seen everything. The kid used to hang around my shop, watching me fix engines like it was magic. He'd been running with BSK the past couple years, loyal, sharp, but greedy. Too greedy. You sure? I asked. Sure enough. He limped toward the back of the garage. I followed, pulled the tarp off the Buick. The smell of old leather and dust filled the air. I tossed him the keys. You drive, you die, I said. Cops got your face all over the radio. He grinned. Guess that means you driving. We rolled out slow, lights off, engine humming low. The streets were ghost quiet. Only the hum of distant traffic, the drip of rain from the eaves. The neighborhood looked dead. Shuttered stores, graffiti peeling off walls. Kids' bikes left in yards like abandoned dreams. As we hit Rosewood Avenue, I saw it. Black and white cruisers parked near the liquor store, officers talking to residents, showing photos. My photo. Keep your head down, I muttered. Go slouch low. Hood up. You think they'll come for you first. They'll come for whoever they can find. We turn off onto a side street, heading towards Slim J's corner. My gut was tight the whole way. The last time I'd driven these blocks with Ghost beside me, we were chasing a rival set. Now we were running from the same people who used to fear us. We stopped 2 houses away from Slim J's spot, a sagging 2-story painted gray with boarded windows. Smoke from a nearby burned barrel curled into the sky. A few figures stood around it, their blue bandanas faded with time. Ghost opened the door. Stay here. Hell no, I said. You can barely walk. He gave me that look, the kind that used to stop arguments dead. Say, let me handle my business. I sat there for a second, watching him limp across the street. The drizzle turned to a mist, soft but cold. The men by the barrel looked up, their posture shifting when they recognized him. Even hurt, Ghost had gravity. People moved when he came around. They spoke low. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see Slim J's face, nervous, eyes darting. Then Ghost said something that made him flinch. One of the others stepped back. Slim J shook his head, hands up, talking fast. Then Ghost hit him. Just one punch, fast, clean, dropped the kid to his knees. Another man grabbed Ghost's arm, tried to calm him, but Ghost shoved him aside. He reached inside his jacket, pulled something shiny, a pistol, small, black. Shit, I muttered, shoving the door open. By the time I got there, Slim J was crying, nose bleeding, Ghost pressing the barrel to his forehead. You talk to them? Ghost growled. Tell him where I was? I ain't saying nothing, Ghost. On the set. I ain't. Ghost cocked the hammer. You lying? I grab his arm. Stop. Not here, man. He turned on me, eyes wild. He sold me out, Zay. You don't get it. I get it, I said. But killing him in the open? That's suicide. The other men looked away, pretending not to see. Slim J was shaking like a leaf, whispering prayers under his breath. The rain fell harder again, like the sky wanted to drown the moment. Ghost's arm trembled. For a second, I thought he'd pull the trigger anyway. But then he cursed, lowered the gun, and shoved Jay backward. You got 24 hours, he said coldly. Disappear. Slim J stumbled away, clutching his face, disappearing into the shadows. Ghost stood there breathing hard. He's the rat, Zay. I know it. Then you should have let me handle it. He stared at me, breathing heavy. You still think you're not one of us? I didn't answer. We drove back in silence. The city looked different now, too clean, too bright under the morning light. The cops had left the main drag, but I knew they'd be back. Word would spread that Ghost was still free. Word would spread that I'd helped him. When we got to the shop, I parked around the back, killed the engine. Ghost leaned his head against the window, eyes closed. For the first time, he looked tired, not just hurt, but worn down. You ever think about what it could have been? He asked quietly. If he left back then, before Dion. All the time, I said. He smiled faintly. Ain't no leaving. Not really. I didn't want to hear that. I went inside, poured another coffee, tried to calm the shaking in my hands. The garage felt smaller now. The smell of oil felt heavier. I caught my reflection in the window. Same tired eyes, same scar on my jaw, same man who thought he could outrun the smoke. Ghost limped in behind me, holding his leg. You got more tape? In the drawer. He nodded, sat on the stool, started rewrapping the bandage. His hands were steady, even with the pain. He looked like he'd done this 1,000 times. You trust Terrence? He asked suddenly. I frowned. What you mean? He showed up too fast last night. Before the cops cleared out. You told him to check in. Yeah, Ghost said slowly. But maybe he was checking on me. That thought sank deep. Terrence was hungry, no doubt. Always wanted Ghost's respect. But he wasn't stupid. Selling out his own set would have been suicide, unless someone promised him something bigger. Ghost's eyes met mine. Tomorrow, we find out. Smoke yard. He nodded. You coming, right? I hesitated. Every part of me wanted to say no. To stay in the shop, close the doors, let the world burn outside. But I couldn't shake the image of Dion's body on the sidewalk. Cops stepping over him like he was nothing. Ghost had been right about one thing. Peace on this block only lasted if someone fought for it. Yeah, I said quietly. I'm coming. Ghost gave a slow nod. Knew you would. He reached into his jacket and tossed something on the workbench. A folded blue bandana. It landed between us like a ghost. Keep it, he said. You might need it tomorrow. I stared at it for a long time. That rag had once meant everything. Brotherhood, belonging, purpose. Now it just looked like a curse in cotton form. I didn't pick it up. Ghost limped toward the cot in the corner and lay down, exhaustion finally dragging him under. Within minutes, he was out cold, breathing slow. I stood there, staring at him, listening to the rain. Outside, the neighborhood was waking up, car engines starting, dogs barking, kids heading to school. But I knew the peace wouldn't last. The streets were whispering again. Word was out. The Kings were moving. Ghost was alive. Zay was back. I turned off the light, but sleep didn't come. Not that night. All I could think about was tomorrow. The smoke yard, the meat, the rat, the choice I'd have to make. And the way Ghost's words kept echoing through my head, no matter how hard I tried to shut them out. Ain't no leaving. Not really. They say the streets got a rhythm, a beat that never stops, even when hearts do. For the next week, that rhythm slowed to a crawl. The block felt quieter after that night. Cops rolled through heavier than usual, lights flashing like disco balls of fear. Blue rag members went underground. Corner talk turned soft. Whispers carried farther than shouts. I kept my head low, kept my distance. But every night, I found myself standing by the bridge, the same one where I'd pulled King out from under that flashing red and blue chaos. Sometimes I'd still hear those sirens echoing off the concrete, smell the mix of gunpowder and rain that burned into my memory. That night didn't leave me. It just hid behind my ribs, waiting. Where was King got bailed out by someone high up? Nobody knew who. Some said it was a lawyer on the set's payroll. Others said it was a ghost from back in the day, someone who still believed in the code, even after the world stopped paying attention. All I knew was, a few days later, he was back on the street. And when he called for me, I came. It was early evening when I pulled up to the spot, an abandoned car wash near Rosecrans. Blue rag colors painted over old gang tags, half washed by rain. The smell of weed and oil hung thick. King was leaning on a busted vending machine, eyes scanning me like I was a test he wasn't sure he wanted to take again. You came, he said, voice rough from whatever he'd been through. You called, I replied. Didn't think I had a choice. He smirked, the kind of smile that hides pain behind pride. You always got a choice, brother. That's what separates men from soldiers. He handed me a cigarette. I didn't smoke, but I took it, out of respect. He looked around, checking for ears. Things got hot since that night. Cops watching corners, snitches running their mouths. Word is someone tipped him off before they grabbed me. I stayed quiet. The air between us was heavy with suspicion, like every word might cut the wrong way. You think it was one of ours? I finally asked. He nodded slowly. Has to be. Nobody else knew where I was going to be. He looked at me, long, hard, searching. You still loyal, right? That word hit deep. Loyal. The streets twist it, make it something sacred and dangerous. You wear it like a cross until it buries you. Always been, I said, but my voice cracked halfway. King nodded like he wanted to believe me. Then I need you to ride with me tonight. We got a meeting. Got to remind folks who still runs this block. We rolled out as the sun died over Compton. The streets were painted gold and blue, broken glass catching the light like cheap diamonds. Kids played ball by the curb, mothers yelled from porches, and every siren in the distance felt like a heartbeat counting down to something ugly. The car ride was silent, except for the hum of tires on cracked asphalt. King sat next to me, eyes fixed forward, hand resting on the piece tucked under his hoodie. Two of his boys, Shadow and Nino, rode in the back, both quiet, both ready. We pulled up behind an old liquor store. Half the sign was gone. It just read LIQ. That felt right for the night. A few cars already there, deep blue Chevys, a low Impala, a matte black truck with tinted windows. Blue rag crew. Inside, the back room smelled like sweat and paranoia. The lights flickered, buzzing like insects. About 10 dudes stood around a pool table, all wearing blue, all armed. And right in the center was someone I hadn't seen before. A tall dude with sharp eyes and a voice that could cut steel. "That's Ghost," King whispered. "Used to be one of mine. Now he thinks he's me." The air changed when Ghost saw King. The room split down in visible lines. Some nodded to King, others didn't move. Loyalty had cracks, and you could feel them widen with every second. "King," Ghost said, leaning back on the table. "Didn't think you'd crawl back this fast. Thought the law might have finished what the streets started." King smiled, slow and dangerous. "Guess I'm harder to bury than you thought." Laughter, but it was nervous, scattered. Ghost pushed off the table and walked up close. "You getting sloppy, old head. The world's changing. Cops ain't scared of us no more. Half the city don't even respect the color blue." King didn't flinch. "Respect don't come from fear. It comes from blood. And you ain't shit enough to claim this block." That did it. The tension snapped like a wire. Guns lifted halfway, fingers twitching. I could smell sweat, oil, adrenaline. One wrong word, and the room would turn into a graveyard. Ghost smirked, then stepped back. "You think you still got it, huh? Fine. You can have a block. But you better keep it clean, King. Because next time the cops come, I won't be the one tipping them off." That last line landed like a grenade. The room froze. I saw King's jaw tighten, saw the truth hit him in the gut. Ghost was the snitch. King reached for his gun. Fast, but Ghost was faster. The sound cracked the air, one shot, then two. I dropped behind a crate, gun in hand, ears ringing. Bullets tore through the walls. Bottles shattered. Blue lights flickered outside, as if the cops were already waiting. Smoke filled the air, thick, choking. Shadow screamed. Nino fell beside me, clutching his chest. King dove behind the table, returning fire, shouting orders I barely heard. "Move! Move!" he yelled. I crawled to him, grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the back door. He was bleeding, shoulder hit bad. "Leave me," he shouted. "Hell no." I yelled back. "You think I saved your ass once just to watch you die here?" We crashed through the back exit, into the alley. Sirens wailed closer. Ghost must have called them again. King stumbled, pressing his wound. I could hear Ghost shouting behind us, his voice echoing through the smoke. "You ain't the king no more." We hit the fence at the end of the alley. I boosted him over, then climbed after. His blood smeared on my hands, warm and slick. On the other side, we landed in a small yard behind a mechanic shop. The street beyond glowed blue with flashing lights. King slumped against the wall, breathing heavy. "You could have left me," he said. "Yeah," I said, wiping blood off my face. "But I don't run like that." He looked at me. That same hard stare from the bridge, then nodded. "You got a heart too big for this life, kid." We waited until the sirens faded. Somewhere out there, Ghost was telling the cops a story, one where we were the villains. By the time the chaos died, Compton felt smaller. Word spread fast. Ghost had taken over. Said King was washed. Said the blue rag was under new rule. Some believed him. Some didn't. King went off the radar, staying low in his safe house near Long Beach. I brought him food, checked in, patched his shoulder as best I could. He talked less and less each day. His fire was dimming, and it scared me. One night, he said something I still remember clear as daylight. "You ever think about leaving?" "Leaving what?" I asked. "This," he said, waving a hand toward the cracked ceiling, the muffled sound of police helicopters outside. The game. The streets. All of it. I thought about it. About the kids on the corner. The way the sky over Compton never looked clean. "Every damn day," I said. He smiled faintly. "Then maybe there's hope for you yet." A week later, everything broke. I was out late, running an errand for King. A drop at the old basketball courts near Alondra. It was supposed to be quiet, but quiet don't last long in this city. When I pulled up, the place was empty, too empty. The kind of silence that whispers trap. Then headlights flared behind me. 3 cars boxed me in. Doors opened, and out stepped Ghost and his crew, all armed, all smiling like sharks. "Well, look who we got here," Ghost said. "The hero." I didn't move. "You got the wrong guy." "Nah," he said, circling me like prey. "You're the one who pulled King out from under my message to the cops. You ruined everything that night." See, the plan was simple. King goes down, I rise up. But you had to play savior. He stopped in front of me, gun drawn. So now I got to clean up the mess. The sound of metal clicking filled the night. I could taste the fear, dry, bitter. Then a voice shouted from the dark. "Drop it." King stepped out from behind the bleachers, hoodie up, gun steady, eyes cold. Ghost laughed. "You really think you can stop me, old man?" King didn't answer. He just fired. Chaos erupted again. I dove for cover as bullets shredded the court. Sparks flew from the metal fence. The smell of gunpowder burned my nose. Ghost men dropped one by one, but they had numbers. King took a hit to the leg, dropped to one knee. I crawled over, grabbed his arm, pulling him back behind a bench. He looked at me, blood pouring down his thigh. "You gotta finish this," he said. "What the hell are you talking about?" "Ghost, end it, before he ends all of us." Before I could answer, Ghost was already moving, walking across the court slow, deliberate, like he wanted us to see death coming. "Last chance, King," he said. "The block's mine now. Your history." King raised his gun, hands shaking, but he couldn't aim steady. I looked at Ghost, looked at King, looked at the gun in my hand, and for the first time in my life, I stopped thinking. The shot echoed across the empty court, bouncing off the walls like thunder. Ghost dropped before he even hit the ground. King stared at me, breathing hard. "You did it," he said softly. I didn't feel relief, just emptiness, the kind that eats you from the inside. King grabbed my shoulder, bloodied fingers gripping tight. "You just bought yourself a lifetime on these streets," he whispered. "You think this ends here? It don't. The block remembers." Then his eyes rolled back. Sirens wailed in the distance again, closer this time. I knew that sound too well. It was always the same rhythm. The streets never stopped beating. I stood there under the flickering lights, gun still hot, Ghost's body cooling by the fence, and King bleeding beside me. The man I'd saved, the man who taught me everything. And I realized, saving him once wasn't enough. Because in Compton, saving a man don't change the streets. It just delays the next war. The night after Ghost hit the ground, the whole city felt wrong. Compton air got heavier, like the smog itself was grieving. Sirens became the new soundtrack. Word traveled faster than bullets. Ghost was dead. King was wounded. And somebody, a nobody, had pulled the trigger. That somebody was me. I ditched the gun, burned the clothes, tried to disappear. But you can't hide from the block. The streets remember faces, voices, footsteps. Every wall in the hood got eyes, and they all started turning my way. King was in bad shape. I left him bleeding on the court, praying the cops found him before the Reapers did. Next morning, I heard he made it, patched up and hiding again. But Ghost people, they didn't mourn. They mobilized. The blue rags split in half overnight. One side still loyal to King. The other swore revenge for Ghost. And in the middle of all that chaos was me, the man who killed the future and broke the past in the same breath. I laid low for days. No calls, no visits, no lights. Just a half-empty bottle and the hum of the refrigerator to keep me company. Every sound outside made my heart race. The screech of tires, a knock on the wrong door, the echo of sneakers on concrete. You ever sit in silence, so long you start hearing your own heartbeat? That's where I was, stuck between regret and survival. By day 5, paranoia turned to anger. I couldn't run forever. The block doesn't let you vanish. It hunts you until you bleed or kneel. I needed to know where King stood. Was I still family or just a weapon he used? The safe house was different when I came back. Quiet, cold, the windows covered with newspaper, the smell of disinfectant and blood mixed in the air. King sat in a chair by the window, leg wrapped tight, gun on his lap. The room looked like a war zone. Maps on the walls, scribbled names, plans, grudges. When he saw me, he didn't smile. "Word has you been Ghost," he said. "Figured it's safer that way." I answered. He nodded. "You did what I couldn't." Ghost was poison. You saved the set. But his voice didn't sound grateful. It sounded hollow, like the words were just air escaping old lungs. I studied him. You don't seem happy about it. He leaned back, lighting a cigarette. The flame flickered against his face, highlighting scars I never noticed before. You think there's happiness in killing? Nah, there's just less noise for a while. He exhaled smoke, eyes distant. Ghost had people, brothers. Blood don't wash off easy. They'll come. For me, for both of us. But they'll find you first. He looked at me then, really looked. You should leave, kid. Go north. Change your name. Start over. And you, I was born here. I'll die here. This blocks my coffin. The finality in his tone hit me like a fist. He meant it. He wasn't planning to fight anymore. He was waiting to fall. I didn't leave. Couldn't. Maybe I was too loyal. Maybe too stupid. Maybe both. I started running his errands again, collecting cash from corners still loyal, checking on safe spots, watching shadows for the ones that weren't. Everywhere I went, I felt eyes. Ghost Crew had turned Compton into a maze of traps. Blue turned darker, meaner. The graffiti changed, his name crossed out, mine scrawled under it like a curse. One night, while driving down Wilmington, I caught sight of a familiar face in the rearview mirror, Shadow. He'd been Ghost's right hand, but after that shootout, I hadn't seen him once. Now he was following me. I turned left, then right, weaving through alleys until I stopped behind a warehouse. He followed, headlights off, creeping like a wolf. I stepped out, gun in hand. Come on out, I called. If you're gonna do it to my face. Silence. Then a door opened, and Shadow stepped out, slow, unarmed. I ain't here to shoot you, he said. Then why tail me? 'Cause we need to talk. He moved closer, keeping his hands visible. Ghost had brothers, yeah, but he also had debts. You think he died clean? Nah, he was selling out the set, working with the feds. King wasn't supposed to survive that night. My stomach dropped. You saying King knew? Maybe, maybe not. But somebody tipped Ghost off about that core drop. Somebody close to King. That word, close, echoed in my skull. You saying it was me? Shadow shook his head. Not you. Someone higher. Someone inside the circle. I didn't believe him, couldn't. But he looked serious. Why tell me this? I asked. 'Cause I ain't loyal to ghosts or kings anymore. I'm loyal to the block. And if what I heard is true, this war ain't about colors no more. It's about who's still breathing when the smoke clears. He turned to leave, then paused. Watch your back, kid. Loyalty's a bullet you never see coming. Then he was gone. I didn't sleep that night. His words kept playing in my head. If someone close to King had tipped Ghost, who could it be? Nino was dead. Shadow was out. Only a few left in that inner circle. King's driver, his cousin, and his girl, Tasha. Tasha, the one who always opened the door with a gun in her hand and fire in her eyes. The one King trusted more than any of us. She was beautiful, dangerous, the kind of woman the streets made and the world couldn't understand. I'd always kept my distance, but now, distance didn't matter. I had to know. I found her at King's old spot, a tiny apartment above a barber shop, where the walls still smelled like weed and heartbreak. She opened the door slow, like she expected someone else. Didn't think I'd see you again, she said. Didn't think I'd come. Then why are you here? Need answers. She didn't move, didn't flinch. About Ghost. About who sold us out. She sighed, stepping aside. You better come in. The place was dim, lit only by the glow of a TV showing static. On the table, a bottle, 2 glasses, and a photo of her and King back when things were simpler. She poured a drink and handed it to me. You think I did it? She asked, calm as a confession. I don't know what to think. Well, think fast, she said. Because if you're wrong, that means the real rat's still breathing. I studied her. Her eyes didn't lie. They burned with something too raw for guilt. And she said something that froze my blood. King ain't who you think he is. I frowned. What's that supposed to mean? She leaned in, whispering. He set Ghost up first. Thought he could feed him to the cops, clean his hands, and walk away. But Ghost flipped it. King's the reason that raid even happened. My chest tightened. You're lying. Am I? She said, eyes glinting. You ever wonder why the cops always came for him, but never for his stash, never his family? He had deals. You play both sides. He's been playing you too. The room spun. Everything I thought I knew, twisted. The man I saved twice. The man I killed for. A lie. Before I could answer, the window shattered. Automatic fire spraying glass and dust across the room. I dropped to the floor, dragging Tasha down with me. "Stay down," I yelled. The sound was deafening, bullets chewing through walls. Outside, car engines roared. Shadow's warning came back to me. "Watch your back." I crawled to the door, peeking out. 3 cars, tinted windows, blue flags waving. King's crew. "Guess we found a rat," Tasha said bitterly. We ran through the back, down the stairs, into the alley. Gunfire followed like a heartbeat. I fired back, catching one of them in the shoulder. Tasha kept up beside me, blood on her arm, but eyes still sharp. We jumped a fence, ducked behind dumpsters. Smoke and gunpowder filled the air. Somewhere behind us, someone yelled, "King wants him alive." That confirmed it. King was behind it. He'd sent his own crew to clean me up. The streets I bled for had finally turned on me. We ran until our legs gave out, collapsing behind an abandoned church off Central. The building was half burned, half holy, stained glass broken, cross hanging crooked. I pressed against the wall, breathing hard. Tasha wrapped a torn sleeve around her arm, hissing through the pain. "You still think I'm a traitor?" she asked. "No," I said quietly. "Not anymore." She looked at me then, long, searching. "So what now?" I stared at the cracked altar ahead. "Now, we finish what we started." The next night, I went back to the safe house, alone. King was there, same chair, same cigarette, like nothing had changed. When he saw me, his face twisted into something between anger and sadness. "You made it out," he said. "I heard about the shootout." "Yeah," I said. "Heard you sent the invitation." His eyes hardened. "You weren't supposed to hear that. Guess word travels fast." We stared at each other. 2 ghosts of the same war, both too stubborn to die. "You lied to me," I said. "I protected you," he shot back. "You think this world gives second chances? I gave you one. I gave you purpose. You gave me blood on my hands." He stood, wincing from his leg wound. "You killed Ghost because I couldn't. You saved me because you believed I was worth it. Don't twist it now. You made me your soldier," I said. "But you were just another general chasing a throne." His silence said everything. Finally, he sighed. "You want truth?" "Yeah, I fed Ghost to the cops. He was planning to kill me first. This is survival, not betrayal. And me? You were just supposed to be the lookout." The words cut deeper than any bullet. For a second, the room felt like the center of the world, quiet, still, deadly. "You gonna kill me too?" I asked. He looked down at his gun. "If it keeps the peace, maybe." Then came the sirens, again. The third act of our curse. Police lights flashed through the curtains. Somebody tipped them off, again. King looked at me, realization dawning. "You call them?" I shook my head. "Wasn't me." Then the door exploded inward. Cops stormed in, shouting, lights blinding. I hit the ground. King fired twice before a bullet caught him clean in the chest. He fell back, eyes wide open, cigarette still burning between his fingers. The smell of gunpowder and blood mixed again. That same smell from the bridge, from the court, from every corner of my life. As they dragged me out, I looked back one last time. King was still there, slumped in the chair, smoke curling from his lips like he'd just let go of the world. They booked me for manslaughter, possession, resisting arrest, the usual menu. I kept my mouth shut. Tasha disappeared. Shadow vanished. Ghost crew scattered. Weeks passed, then months. In jail, nights were longer. The silence wasn't quiet anymore. It had a weight, a pulse, like the streets still breathing through the walls. Sometimes I'd dream of that first night. The flashing lights, the rain, the sound of cuffs on King's wrists. The moment I decided to save him. And every time I woke up, I asked myself the same question. Did I save him or damn us both? A year later, they let me out. Compton hadn't changed, just aged. The corners looked smaller. The murals faded. The blue still bled through, but duller now. I walked the same block where it all started. Kids played ball. Cops watched from the corner. Somewhere, music blasted from a car radio. The same song we used to bump on nights we thought we'd never die. I stopped by the bridge, that bridge. the one where it began. The graffiti had changed again. "Long live King," it said in bold blue paint. I stood there for a long time, hand on the cold rail, city humming below. He got what he wanted, legend. Me? I got the truth. And the truth ain't clean. It stains you forever. Because out here, loyalty ain't a word. It's a wound you keep reopening just to feel alive. Freedom don't feel like freedom when the streets still own your soul. The first breath I took outside that prison gate tasted like rust and smoke. The same as the night I went in. Same smog. Same sirens. Same damn sky over Compton. Only thing different was me. I'd walked in a soldier. I walked out a ghost. No one was there to meet me. No king, no crew, no colors. Just the echo of what used to be. The world kept moving while I was gone. The block had new faces, new codes, new kings. The young ones didn't even know the name Blue Rag anymore. But the walls remembered. Every crack in the sidewalk, every bullet hole in a stop sign, they whispered the old stories. About how loyalty built us. About how betrayal buried us. I headed to the west side first, the part of Compton where it all began. The neighborhood looked smaller, weaker, like the bones of a giant long dead. The liquor store where we held our first meet was boarded up. The car wash where King tested me the first time was gone, replaced by a taco stand. Somebody tagged a mural on the sidewall, a portrait of King. Blue bandana, crown tilted, smoke in his hand. Beneath it, in faded paint, "The block remembers." I stood there for a while, staring at his face. He looked younger in that painting, almost peaceful. I wanted to hate him, for what he did, for what he turned me into. But hate didn't fit anymore. Only exhaustion did. A car slowed behind me, bass rumbling. A young kid leaned out the window, maybe 16, blue hoodie, chains swinging. "Yo, old head," he called, "you knew King?" I nodded. "Yeah." He smiled like he'd met a ghost. He was a legend, man. Said he ran Compton like a king for real. I looked him dead in the eye. "Yeah, King's Tito." The kid laughed, didn't get it, and drove off. Later that night, I found myself by the bridge again. Always the bridge. It was quiet now. No cops, no shouts, just the distant hum of the freeway and the wind brushing past the concrete. That bridge had seen everything. My first mistake, my first mercy, my first kill. It was where I saved King, and maybe where I lost myself. I sat down on the edge, watching the lights ripple off the water below. For the first time in a long while, I let my guard drop. And that's when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned slow. Tasha, still alive, still dangerous. Her hair shorter now, her walk slower. She looked tired in a way that wasn't just physical. "I figured I'd find you here," she said. "Didn't think you'd wanna." She shrugged. "We don't get many places left to remember the dead." She came and sat beside me, close enough to feel her warmth. "They said you got time," she said quietly. "Got out early. Good behavior." She smirked. "Funny. You never were good." We sat there in silence. The city breathed below us, restless, endless. Finally, she asked, "You ever regret saving him?" I didn't answer right away. The question burned deep. "Every day," I said, "but not 'cause I wish he died. 'Cause saving him made me think we could still change something." "And you don't believe that anymore?" I shook my head. "You don't change the streets. The streets change you." She nodded slowly. "He used to say that too. Before everything went dark, we watched the traffic move like veins of light through the city. Somewhere out there, kids were making the same mistakes we made, chasing crowns made of bullets and broken promises." "You ever wonder what would have happened if we just walked away back then?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "But if we had, we wouldn't have a story to tell." She smiled, sad, small, real. "Stories don't keep you warm. Neither do regrets." She told me she'd been laying low, working nights at a diner out in Long Beach. Said she kept a picture of King on the counter. Not 'cause she missed him, but because she wanted to remember the price. When she left, she kissed me on the cheek and said, "Don't die out here, okay?" I watched her walk away, the last link to everything I used to be, and for a moment I almost called her back. But what would I say? That I was sorry? That I missed something that never really existed? Nah, some words just get lost between gunshots and ghosts. A few weeks passed. I got a job at an auto shop, fixing engines for delivery trucks. Simple work, dirty hands, quiet days. Nobody asked questions. But the streets don't forget. Sometimes I'd see the new crews rolling by, flags out, music loud. Blue still meant something, but not what it used to. They were fighting over corners that didn't even have customers anymore. Just ghosts. One night after work, I saw a group of them beating some kid behind the store. He couldn't have been more than 14. Wrong color on his hoodie, that's all. I yelled, "Hey," before I could stop myself. They turned, recognized me. "Yo, ain't that the dude?" I didn't wait for the rest. I stepped in. 3 of them. One of me. Only would have reached for the piece. Numi just swung. It was fast, messy, and stupid. But when the dust settled, the kid was breathing and they were gone. I told him to run home. He looked at me with wide eyes. "Why'd you help me?" I said, "'Cause someone helped me once." He nodded, wiped the blood from his lip, and ran. And just like that, it hit me. Maybe that's what all this pain was for. Not redemption, not revenge, just a chance to break the pattern once, for somebody else. A month later, I stood at King's grave for the first time. It was small, unmarked, just a patch of dirt under a dead tree. The set hadn't claimed him. Too many enemies, too much bad blood. I brought a blue bandana, folded neat, and laid it down. Not as a tribute, as closure. "You were wrong," I said. "You thought power made you king. But real kings don't rule the block. They protect it." The wind picked up, carrying dust across the field. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear music again, old West Coast rhythm, low and haunting. I closed my eyes, and for a second, I saw it all again. The bridge, the rain, the flashing lights. The moment I pulled him free. That was the day I thought I was saving a man. But maybe I was just saving myself from becoming him. Now, when people ask who I am, I tell them I'm nobody. Just a man trying to stay out the way. But some nights, when the streets go quiet and the world slows down, I hear that rhythm again. That heartbeat of Compton, the one that never dies. And I remember what King said the last time he looked at me. The block remembers. He was right. It remembers the blood, the loyalty, the lies. It remembers the ones who stayed too long and the ones who left too late. But it also remembers the ones who tried to do right, even when right didn't pay. The other night, I passed by that same bridge again. Someone had repainted the mural, fresh colors, bright blues. But now, under King's face, there was new graffiti. Someone saved the king. I don't know who wrote it. Maybe Tasha. Maybe that kid I helped. Maybe nobody. But standing there, I realized something. Saving him didn't save the streets. It didn't save me. But maybe it started a ripple. Maybe one day, someone else won't have to choose between loyalty and life. Maybe that's enough. I looked up at the skyline. Helicopters blinking in the distance, city lights pulsing like veins. The same heartbeat as always. I smiled just a little. "That's the thing about the streets," I whispered. "You never really leave. You just learn to walk softer." Then I turned and walked away, hands in my pockets, the night swallowing me whole. And somewhere behind me, under the bridge, the echo of my footsteps faded into the rhythm that never dies.